Samsung is once again aiming to bring its in-house chipsets back to the spotlight, and this time, it might actually pull it off. After the setback with the Exynos 2500, the company is now targeting the Galaxy S26 series with the next-generation Exynos 2600 chipset. The new chip will be based on Samsung's cutting-edge 2-in fabrication process, and if all goes according to plan, we could see it powering the S26 lineup next year. But before we dive into what the Exynos 2600 brings to the table, let's rewind a bit. Initially, Samsung had hoped to launch the Galaxy S25 series with the Exynos 2500, which was built on the company's own 3-in process. However, the number of usable chips produced per silicon wafer, just weren't high enough to make it commercially viable. That forced Samsung to make a tough call and rely entirely on Qualcomm's Snapdragon 8 Gen 4 Elite chip for the Galaxy S25 series. And truth be told, that decision was actually welcomed by most users, as Qualcomm chips are widely considered more reliable and efficient than Exynos chips, at least in recent years. Fast forward to now, Samsung isn't ready to throw in the towel just yet. The Exynos 2600 is its next big bet, and it's built on an even more advanced 2-in process. That's a bold move considering the yield issues with 3-in, but it seems like Samsung is finally making progress. According to a new report from South Korea's AK Radio, the 2-in fabrication process at Samsung Foundry has now reached a 40% yield rate. That's a big deal. For some context, chip makers typically begin full-scale mass production only when yield rates hit around 70% to 80%. So while Samsung isn't there yet, this 40% milestone shows that the company is moving in the right direction. Even more interestingly, the report claims Samsung Foundry might be ready to begin mass producing the Exynos 2600 by November 2025. If that timeline holds, there's a good chance the chip will be ready just in time for the Galaxy S26 launch. In comparison, TSMC, the world's leading semiconductor manufacturer, currently has a 60% yield rate for its own 2-in process. So while Samsung is still trailing, it's slowly closing the gap. If the Foundry division can boost yields in the coming months, Samsung might finally be able to match or even beat TSMC in advanced chip manufacturing. And that would be a huge win, not just for Samsung, but for the entire Android ecosystem. So what can we expect from the Exynos 2600? Well, details are still limited, but there's a lot riding on this chip. Historically, Exynos processors have lagged behind Qualcomm in performance, battery efficiency, and thermal management. But Samsung is determined to change that narrative. The Exynos 2600 is expected to offer significantly improved CPU and GPU performance, better power efficiency, and cooler thermals. If Samsung gets this right, it could finally restore some faith in its custom silicon. The competition is only getting fiercer, with Apple pushing the envelope with its A-series chips and Qualcomm continuing to dominate the Android space. Samsung needs to step up its game. The Exynos 2600 might just be the breakthrough the company has been looking for. That said, it's still too early to call it a success. Reaching 40% yield is encouraging, but Samsung has to sustain and improve that number quickly if it wants to meet the Galaxy S26 production timeline, thanks to the ultra-reliable Snapdragon 8 Gen 4 Elite chip. But come 2026, things might look very different if Samsung pulls this off. Only time will tell if the Exynos 2600 is the comeback Samsung has been working towards. But the signs are promising, and if everything goes according to plan, the Galaxy S26 might be powered by a chip that's truly built by Samsung from start to finish. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.